What's going on, world? DS1 Ross, and I'm back. Shout out to everybody who support Sheep Stay Sleep TV. I'm your host, DS1 Ross. Hope everyone's had a good day. Like I said, shout out to y'all. I'm back tonight with another episode on Sheep Stay Sleep TV. And tonight, the topic is I'm asking y'all questions tonight. Is it you or is it them? Is it you or is it them? Elevating our consciousness. Who do we continue to blame? And I ask these questions because, you know, as I continue to grow in consciousness, I know that that's a continuous process dealing with self-development. And as a people, we must continue to develop self. This is just my perception on things. We must continue to develop ourselves. We cannot get stagnant. We cannot get comfortable. I know a lot of things we deal with on a daily basis and over the span of our lives. We've dealt with a lot of things that hurt us, that disappointed us, that made us feel like failures. And we've let those things make us into who we are. And what those things actually have made us become is broken people. And this is why we have broken homes. This is why we have broken relationships. This is just why we're just scattered. There's no unity because we haven't unified ourselves as individuals. We haven't created that balance between, spiritual and physical. So we must continue to self-develop. And when I ask this question, is it you or is it them? I phrased it this way because I notice in this the quote unquote conscious community, it's always a blame game. It's like no matter how intellectual we try to sound, it always boils down to we're blaming someone other than ourselves. And I think that's a very, very major issue when dealing with our people. We continue to project blame on other people. And I feel like that's our downfall at this point. We keep saying it's them, it's their fault, it's his fault, it's her fault. But what about you? And I'm not saying you because you're black. I'm saying you as an individual. Let's stop blaming color. Let's stop blaming certain things that exempts us from putting the sole blame on ourselves. Because of a lot of predicaments that we're in currently as individuals is because of ourselves. Because you don't have to be on welfare. You don't have to live in the projects. You don't have to be uneducated. You don't have to be miseducated. You don't have to eat bad food. You don't have to live in poverty. You see? So we have to stop using these other things to blame for the reason why we're in the predicaments we're in. Self-development is key. That's part of the healing process. Heal before we build. We have to start looking at ourselves, because we all like to say we're conscious, but what are we conscious of? Are we conscious that our current situation is because of us and that we're the answer to our problem? We're the answer to our own problem. Nobody else can solve our issues but us. And we have to live our lives accordingly. We have to make it better. We have to put our children in better schools. There are good schools out there. But if you live in an impoverished neighborhood, you don't think that your your child is going to get miseducated? You don't think that your child was going to go to school and eat bad food? You can't say because there's bad food out there that that's a problem, because the world is based on balance. The universe is based on balance, negative and positive. So we can't sit here and say, oh, because there's a bunch of bad food in this school, that we need to blame the Board of Education. No, everything is based on how much you really know to accomplish where you need to go. That's why they say if you knew better, you'll do better. This is where that whole cliche comes from. So if you want your children to be in a better school and to get a better education, you have to change your living standards. You have to want to live better. You have to want to live in better neighborhoods. And that starts with us, because the ghetto and great neighborhoods, the only thing separates it is the people who invest in it. See, a lot of people invest in the poor neighborhoods because they can they can make much more profit quicker. It's like selling wholesale goods. People gonna buy it up in bulk because it's a cheaper price. And this is the same thing with the projects. And I'm not knocking nobody for living where they're living. But if you're living where you're living, look at that as a temporary thing. Don't live there for 30, 40, 50 years and constantly complain about the nature of your neighborhood or the nature of the education of your neighborhood. We have to understand this. Is it you or is it them? When are we going to stop playing the blame game and look at the real? Look at what's real. So who do we continue to blame? Do we continue to blame the system? Or do we do the right things so the things in the system that are negative don't affect us as much as they have over these last, what I'm going to say, 100, 200 years, maybe even more, who knows? Or however people try to phrase it. But we have to start being honest with ourselves, family. We have to. We can talk about the system of oppression. We can talk about the system of this, that, and the third. We can talk about all of this. That's cool. But what are you going to do? What are you going to do? You're going to just keep sitting back and blaming them? So when your children live the same impoverished life that you lived, because you lived the same impoverished life of your parents and their parents and their parents and their parents. So we're passing down poverty. When is this cycle of wickedness is going to stop between us? And it will not stop as long as we keep blaming them. Projecting the blame on someone else in its entirety is showing that you're trying to be void of accountability. And adults should never be void of accountability. If you're not held accountable or don't want to be held accountable or don't want to be held responsible, guess what? You are a child. You have a childlike mind. You don't want to be responsible for cleaning up your room. You don't want to be responsible for taking care of your clothes. You don't want to be responsible for getting good grades. That's the mentality of my children who think that, oh, I don't have to do this now. This is why I teach my sons those things. You must hold yourself accountable because this is what's going to make you an adult. So you must start now. So you're held responsible for cleaning up your room. You're held responsible for keeping your body clean. That's your responsibility. That's not my responsibility. That's not your mother's responsibility. If you go to school musty, that is not our fault. That's your fault. So is it you or is it them? Let's start asking ourselves those questions, fam. Is it you or is it them? Who do we continue to blame? Do we continue to blame the system that's been in place forever now? Or do we become one of the success stories who overcame certain things and now the system works for them? Ask yourselves that. Do you want your children to grow up and but continue to blame them? Do you want your children to grow up and be failures? See, people who constantly blame other people is because they have a sense of entitlement. They expect things to go their way because they are them. But you have to put in the work. We have to stop thinking we're entitled to things. Because even if you go back into history, like a lot of y'all in the conscious community like to talk about, as far as us being kings and all of this and that, we worked. You see? You weren't entitled to the kingdom. You worked to gain the kingdom. And this is what we have to do. We have to continue to work. And it first starts working on ourselves. Everything we do needs to be for us, not for nobody else. And I know what I'm talking about tonight. A couple people may call me a coon. I'm this, I'm that. Hey, you could call me a coon, but you only calling me a coon because you're losing. You feel defeated. So by calling me a coon makes you feel better with you being in your losing state of mind. Your biggest winners in life has took the biggest losses. Look at LeBron James. He's taken losses, but he's a champion. Michael Jordan has taken losses, but he's a champion. He's a champion because you can never know how winning feel if you never knew what it feels to lose. See, you only a loser when you give up. That's when you become a loser. Taking losses is part of winning. You're not going to win every game. That's not what life is about. We have to become honest with ourselves. We're too caught up in this fantasy thinking of thinking that we have a sense of entitlement because of what we went through. How about we use what we went through as motivation? See, one of the songs that I began to really like more and more, and I didn't really like it when I first heard it, was 50 Cent's Hustler's Ambition. And something that really makes me like the song is he says, I need your energy to fuel me. So what he does is he takes all of the things and the energy, the negative energy that people send his way, and he uses it to fuel him to win. If you look at 50 Cent's whole career, he's have used all of the losses he's took in his life to become the mogul he is today. Him losing his mother at a young age to the streets, him going to jail, him having to sell drugs, him almost dying from the streets, just like his mom, him never really knowing his dad, him growing up with his grandparents. Then, after he got his deal, he had to be faced with the same people who could have possibly took his mother's life. But what did he do? He used that to fuel him and made him want to go out and win even more. And see, that's what really hurt Ja Rule and Irv Gotti about 50 Cent, is that he's a winner. And he's winning more than them. This is why a lot of people hate 50. Because of that. They thought with all those tragedies that happened in his life, he was never supposed to be where he is today. But look at where he's at today. Listen to Listen to the things that he names his projects. One of his biggest projects he's had since his first album is Power. 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 How do you gain power? Not by blaming anybody, not staying stuck in that conundrum. Because we like to stay in that stance of, I'm just losing. And I don't see how I'm going to win. I don't understand how to win. And what happens is we get comfortable with losing constantly. We get comfortable with it. And this is the problem. You can never develop, you can never grow in comfort. You have to feel pain. You have to cry. You have to let that energy out. Because if you don't, you won't see results. And this is our problem. We have to get out of these theories and let's start producing results. And I'm not saying all of these things are going to change overnight. Self-development is a constant process. You shouldn't stop developing until you die. You must continue to elevate. And the more and more I continue to develop my consciousness, I know that there's a lot of things I have to work on in my life. See, I'm not void of that. And I don't like being void of accountability. It doesn't sit well with me. It stresses me out when I feel like I'm not being accountable. I'm not being responsible. I'm not growing. That stresses me out because I'm not built like that. And I wasn't raised like that. But it's too much of us sitting in the comforts of our homes, not building towards anything, not having a vision, not having any goals, but complaining about a goddamn system. It's too much of that going on. It's too much of that. If you sitting around and you getting a check from the government, I shouldn't hear you talking shit about the government. Because every once or twice a month, you can go out and do what you like to do because of them, not because of you. If you're not feeding yourself and someone else is feeding you, you should not be complaining about the motherfuckers who are feeding you. What you should do is take what they're giving you and use it to propel. So then you won't need them anymore. Self-development, y'all. Is it you or is it them? Because them people are going to always be there. And they're going to continue their agenda. But what is your agenda? That's the focus. That's what we need to be talking about. What is your focus? What is it that you want to do? It's not about what they're going to do. What do you want to do? I know what y'all want to do. Most of y'all want to sit back and complain. Want to sit back and complain and look for somebody to come and rescue you. We're looking for heroes. So we're living in a fantasy way of thinking. This is what we're doing. We need to get out of this black utopian mindset. That shit doesn't exist. Where we're going to be this big happy family in America that's running everything. That's not going to exist. Okay? That's utopian. That's not practical and it's not realistic. Because the people who run America are not just the people that you think run America or even run this entire system that controls the world. So is it you or is it them for the reason why you stuck in your position, in your predicament, and you don't see your way out? Whose fault is that? That you have no vision, that you have no willpower. That's nobody's fault but your own. And see, when you have children, you definitely don't want to teach from that aspect. Because how are you going to raise productive adults if you constantly teaching them that it's somebody else's fault why you're living in the predicament you're living in? How are you going to teach your children that? And then the world is set up nowadays where these children know that it's about what you do in life. These children know that. These children are not buying that BS no more. Oh, I can't be this because I'm this. They're not buying that. They're not buying that. The youth is not going to accept that BS. And this is why a lot of the young men in our communities don't respect the older guys. Because the older guys are coming to them with some outdated BS. They're not coming to them and being real with them and being honest with them and meeting them where they are. This is what a lot of older men are not doing. A lot of older women are not doing. We're preaching this 1942 bullshit in 2017. When you got 9-year-olds that are millionaires, but I'm supposed to tell my son he can't be a millionaire. Or he can't go out and meet certain people to gain the information to become a millionaire. I'm supposed to teach my sons that when there's proven fact that they're 9-year-old millionaires that's right here on the internet. There's a little boy who became a millionaire selling marbles. There's a little black girl, she made hundreds and hundreds of $1,000s, and she's probably close to being a millionaire now, selling cookies off Instagram. She sells organic chocolate cookies. Her mother runs the business. Oh, so I'm gonna tell my son he can't be part of that because they're exceptions to the rules. They're exceptions. They don't count. I supposed to tell my sons that? And see, when you teaching your children like that, that's child abuse. That's child abuse. That's child abuse. When you telling your children they can't accumulate certain things in life because how they look, that's child abuse. You're destroying them from within. You're killing the competitiveness that's within them. My oldest son, he told me and my wife yesterday that he was in school and they was in gym and they was playing basketball. And he's not really good at basketball. He don't really know how to play. So a Caucasian boy told him, something is wrong with you because you're a black kid and you don't know how to play basketball. So I asked my son, I said, how did you feel when he said that to you? He said, I didn't know how to feel. I was confused. And I told him, you know why you were confused? Because we don't teach hate. See, that boy was taught to label people based on their color, their height, their weight. He was taught that. So if you're a black boy and you wear Jordans, you're supposed to know how to play basketball. And if you don't, something is wrong with you. That's what his parents taught him. But see, we didn't teach that. So he didn't respond to the Caucasian kid the way some other kids may have responded to him. Because another kid would have responded to him in a negative way. But see, we don't teach our children to hate people. We don't teach our children to judge other people based on certain factors. Because it's not about them, it's about you. It's about what you like to do. If my son want to learn how to play basketball, he can learn. But he likes other things outside of sports. Other things are more important to him than sports, like reading science fiction. That's what he like to do. So what am I supposed to do? I'm supposed to say no. Because you're a child of color, you supposed to know how to play sports. Because this is what you supposed to be in life. You're supposed to be an athlete. No, no. You are to become what you want to become. Now, if sports is what you love and what you want to be a part of, then me and your mother will see to it that you get the proper tutelage, but you have to be serious. You cannot play with it. This is what we explain to them. I don't tell my son because you black, you gotta know how to play basketball, you gotta know how to throw a football. That's foolish. But then the same people who teach their children that turn around and complain about our sports figures. So we teach our children to only be athletes and rappers, but then we come on YouTube and complain about the rappers and the athletes. Isn't that foolish? So is it you or is it them? Is it you or is it them? Who's the problem? You or them? Who's more detrimental to your family? You or them? Because guess what these children are doing nowadays? They'll wake up and ask you, well, mom, I went to school today and my friend, he has like, he says that he owns stock in like 20 different companies. Do I own any stock? Do I have any CD accounts? Do I have any assets in my name? These children are growing up asking these questions. See, we didn't grow up asking those questions. See, we didn't find out we had stuff in our name till we went and tried to get an apartment and found out that our mother put the cable bill in our name, that our mother put the phone bill in our name. And now that's stopping me from getting an apartment in my name. And that also messed up my credit. You see, we have to stop raising our children in debt. And it starts with the way they think. Because a lot of us have a debtful way of thinking about ourselves. And that's because we don't have a vision. We don't have goals anymore. We just trying to make it. We have to start competing again. And I'm not saying compete with each other. I'm not saying compete with each other. I'm saying compete with the things that's in this system. Okay, I got this. Now I'm gonna go to the next level. It's all about leveling up. And you gotta have that killer instinct in you. You have to be a go-getter. We can't sit back and blame everybody. Because imagine if your child grew up from the time they were born until they were grown, and all they heard you do was complain and blame everybody else for everything. What do you actually expect from your children if you raise them with that mindset? What do you expect them to do? What do you expect them to accomplish? See, we have to start questioning ourselves again. See, nobody wants to introspect. We don't want to look at ourselves. We don't want to look within. We want to always project. And that's why we always in a state of blame, because we always want to project. We're always in a state of projection. Oh, well, what about what they did? What about what they said? What about what you did? What did you do? Oh, so you just sat back and watched them do everything. You sat back and watched the game. So you a bench player. You a bench warmer. That's what we used to call them when we was in school and we used to play ball. Person that stayed on the bench the whole game. You a bench warmer. You a bench warmer. You know how many guys on the team that worships LeBron? Because it's because of LeBron that they got a championship ring. It's because of Michael Jordan, certain people got championship rings because they were never in the game. They were never in the game. See, it feels good to be a winner when you're in the game and you're not watching the game. See, that's what a lot of us sit back and do. We sit back and watch the game being played and want to judge the players and judge the refs and judge the coaches. You on the bench. You need to be quiet. You're a spectator. Your opinion doesn't matter here. You're a spectator. Watch the game and be happy. See, that's what's for those people. If you want to sit back and watch the game being played, then you don't have an opinion. Your opinion doesn't matter. It only matters to you. You see? If you ain't on the court with LeBron, then you don't know what LeBron goes through. If you was never on the court with Mike, you don't know what it is to still play a game and drop 50, 60 points with the flu. You don't know what that type of killer instinct and competitiveness is about. You don't know what that's like. You don't know what that's like to lose a key player who helped you win championships like Kobe and still come back and win more. You see? Because them brothers worked hard and they took L's. Everybody thought Kobe was finished when he lost Shaq. He took a L. But Kobe's so competitive. He's so competitive. He has the drive to win so bad that he proved it. I can win without Shaq. I don't need none of them because I'm banking on me. And he got guys around him who was banking on themselves. Look at Robert Horry, big shot Bob. He'll come in the game and hit the game winning three to win a championship. And out of the whole series, he probably played 20 minutes. But he came in and hit the game winning three because he wasn't banking on what those other guys was doing. He wasn't banking on that Tim Duncan had 40, David Robinson had 25. When he was with the Rockets, he wasn't banking on what Kenny Smith was doing. When he was with Kobe, he wasn't banking on what Kobe and Shaq and them was doing. Is it you or is it them? Who is it about? Is it about you or is it about them? Are we going to continue to base our lives around other people? Or are we going to base our lives around us? Ask yourselves that. Ask yourselves that. Is it you? Is it them? So I'm going to come in the chat. I'm going to do some shout outs in the chat. Shout out to all the viewers. Shout out for all my supporters. I support Sheep Stay Sleep TV. And then after I shout out the chat, I'm going to wrap it up. Shout out to my brother John Doe. Good looking for coming through. Shout out to my big brother Megalodon. Shout out to the Bay. 415 Yee. Shout out to D Tut for coming through. Welcome to Sheep Stay Sleep, brother. Shout out to my brother Black Worlds. Good looking for coming through, King. Shout out to the sister Savine. It's great to see you. It's always a pleasure. Shout out to my big brother JT. The Darkness Awakens. Peace to the God Zeus Flippy. Shout out to Mama Kiki. Good looking for coming through. Shout out to my sis K Brooks. Good looking on the check-in, sis. Shout out to the Queen Majestic. Shout out to my brother Sir Hibbler. Good looking for coming through, bro. Shout out to the Sweet Black Beauty. Good looking for coming through. Shout out to Living Soul Journey. Thanks for the support, sis. And it's always a pleasure. Shout out to my sister Krista Taylor for coming through and supporting. It's always a pleasure. And shout out to all the people who's not commenting. Shout out to all the watchers. Shout out to everybody who hit the like button and who hit the dislike button. So, like I said, y'all, if we're going to be adults about the issue, if we're going to raise our children in a healthy and positive environment, we got to cut the blame game, y'all. You have to cut the blame game. The blame game has to die. Because remember, the losers are the biggest winners. The people who take the biggest losses are our biggest winners. Just look at them. The ones that are faced with the biggest controversies are our winners. And that's us. If we take the most losses, we need to keep fighting to win. We have to keep fighting to win, y'all. We have to. Floyd Mayweather ain't the best boxer for no reason. He's not. Because he set out not to be a loser. And he took losses in his life. He battled with a lot of things that a lot of people wouldn't be able to stand the test of time to deal with. But he dealt with it. And he made it work. And this is what we have to do, y'all. So shout out to all my supporters, like I said. Make sure y'all hit the like button. If y'all like what I'm saying, if y'all don't like what I'm saying, y'all can hit the dislike button too. I don't have no problem with it. But if we keep talking about elevating our consciousness, just ask yourself, who do we continue to blame then? If we have all this information and all this knowledge, why do we keep projecting blame? Why? Does that make sense? Just think about it, y'all. So shout out to everybody again. Not gonna keep y'all long tonight. And before I go, tomorrow afternoon, I will be doing the show with my brother Israel Doctrine. Make sure y'all tune in. We're gonna go in on what happened to that boy in 2013. What happened to that boy? We need to find out what happened to that boy. So tomorrow, I'm gonna have my brother ID back on the show, and we're gonna go into what we think could have happened to that boy. Because that conversation is important. Because when all these groups of children like to come up missing, we like to run our platforms and talk about what we hear in the media. But this thing goes on a daily basis. It goes on every day. So tomorrow, I'm going to say around 2 to 3 p.m., I'm going to have my brother Israel Doctrine over here on Sheep Stay Sleep TV. And we going to go into what happened to that boy. And I'm going to let my brother bring the information, and we're going to chop it up about that. So thanks again, everybody, for coming through. Supporting Sheep Stay Sleep TV, Sheep Stay Sleep Live, where we advise all the sheep to stay asleep. Wise ones awoke, and remember, we have to heal before we build. Because blaming people our whole lives, is going to keep us in a broken state of mind. Can't heal from blaming everybody. We only can heal from accountability. Shout out to Victor Lyons just coming through. Maybe you could catch the playback, bro. But I'm your host, DS1 Ross. Shout out to DS1 Alliance. DS1 for life. Y'all have a good night, y'all. Peace.